Welcome to Crossing the Hedge with special guest this evening, Aleister Nacht. Greeting, Aleister. Thank you so very much for joining me here today. It's an honor and a pleasure to have you here.
Well, thank you. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. So for those that may be new to Satanism or the left-hand path, can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, I guess my journey started about 30 years ago, a little over 30 years ago. I grew up in Louisiana, and I was in a very strict Southern Baptist home. So I left home at an early age, ended up on the streets, ended up addicted to heroin. And I found hoodoo as I was getting clean, and that kind of led me into Satanism. And I had an opportunity to relocate to Florida, where I live now in the Tampa Bay area, and found a coven. We kind of put the coven together, and we've been doing that now for about 25 years, I guess.
Oh,
I've written a few books, and that's about it.
Yes,
Nothing
more
real
than a
special. Yeah. Some
Um,
people say too many.
no,
So,
it's great. It's great.
yeah.
So what drew you to Satanism in particular, and what made you stay?
Well, my journey on the left-hand path in hoodoo was good. It was a way into a belief system. I think at that point in time, I was probably closer to being an atheist, because I had totally given up on life in general.
Yeah.
And at one point, I had pretty much planned my own death. But that opened the door. But after a few years, I wasn't totally satisfied. So I started to look deeper and deeper, and I found Satanas, who most people refer to as Satan, Shaitan, one of different names. And that walk fit my life. And I started, I guess, really getting deeply involved in the study and the worship. I mean, we're devil worshipers. That sounds kind of strange in mainstream today, but
Yeah.
that's what we are. We're not atheistic. We believe that there is a Satanas, and so that's what really got me involved and got me to the point where I was fulfilled. And it kept me there. Our coven formed through like-minded individuals. And we put the coven together. We started doing rituals. We started out very, very slowly. Our Magus at that time had well, he was about to leave. He had passed away, and so we were left without a Magus. And so I guess I was the slowest runner. So I ended up with it, which it has been a wonderful blessing. It really has. And that has kept me deeply engaged, that and our practice. Since the pandemic, we have cut back a lot on our rituals. We celebrated Bride of the Beast back in September, and that was the last ritual that we did together we stay in contact, but we're all, I guess, older and high risk groups. So, I haven't had COVID or any of the variants. Thank Satanas. And I don't want to have it. So
Yeah.
we take precaution, and so
Well,
that's
that's
about,
wise. Yeah. Yeah,
yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Especially if you're at high risk and stuff. But you obviously must be doing something right if your coven has been going for 25 years. Is that what you said? That is a
25
long
years.
time for a coven to last.
Yeah.
That's amazing. Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. It's something that um, we're a very tight knit group. We're all, the same age, and we're based in finding what works for us and staying with that. We're well past the trying this, try this, try this. We still read, we still look at different people's practice and evaluate, is that right for us? But we've all found a place that really is, to us, the perfect place to be. And so that's pretty much has held us together.
Wow, that's great. That's great. And you had mentioned before you discovered Satanism, you were sort of at a place where you were almost atheistic. You had given up. So, how did you go from, if I may ask, from atheistic to theistic?
I had some experiences, and at the time I called them happenstance. So as I went down that real steep slope of addiction, I pretty much lost myself. Um, uh, in that world, you can't trust anyone. You don't reveal more than you absolutely have to. And so I had lost faith in myself. I had lost faith in the people around me, basically humanity, because all I saw was the bad part, the worst of the worst.
Yeah.
And it really, growing up in such a, I guess, a religious hostile environment, my mother she was very strict. She was really, uh, I I don't know. She was doing the best that she could, but I think when my father left, I think she grabbed religion, and she, I guess, was welcome to some extent in that herd of people. And so she went totally overboard. And for me, I rebelled against that. I mean, it was something that just felt foreign the whole time. So I'm not fully convinced that, I believed that there was a God. I believed that there was a devil from my upbringing. But after kind of deprogramming myself, I was left empty. And that was during the time that I was going through addiction. So when I guess the turning point in my life is one of the ladies that was a hoodoo practitioner. She actually, we ran into each other by happenstance in Cafe Du Monde. I was having a cup of coffee, and she was there having some beignets and stuff, and she just looked at me and she said, "You're looking for a place to die," or something to that effect. But she didn't say it in a mean way. It was more of a caring way, and so I had no reason to lie about it. I said, "Yeah, absolutely." And so we started talking. I think she saw that I needed something to believe in. I needed, first of all, human contact that was not trying to get something or,
Yeah.
rob you or whatever. And so she just started with just the human connection. And that made me open my mind to the possibility that there was something greater than me there that had brought her into my life at that time. I mean, I had already planned my overdose. I mean, I was going to kill myself basically on the church steps at St. Charles Cathedral right there in New Orleans. And so that was the first thing that kind of gave me hope. From there, her her study and her practice of hoodoo, she she brought me into that group, and I think that gave me even more hope until I started experiencing things that I could not explain, and that was spirits. And I guess that, the first time that I truly called upon a demon after I had started transitioning, and and he showed up, and obviously in the astral. He didn't show up in the room, but
Yeah.
um so that, to me, in my mind, proved that there was something there. Everyone wants proof. Everyone is always asking for proof. For me, that was the moment when I had proof, and that was enough for me. And that's what took me from, I guess, believing in nothing and no one to actually embracing that side.
Wow. Nice. Nice. So you have written 11 books, is that right?
I think that's right.
Out of which I've so forced 4 or 5 so far. And I love them. And, I love that you offer them in many different formats. The reader has a lot of choices. A lot of us are really busy nowadays, and we don't get the time to sit and read a book for 2, 3 hours a day as much as I would love to. So the audio, versions are great when I'm packing orders or when I'm on my elliptical or going for a walk or whatever. I can, read your books without, while still keeping up the pace. And the
Right.
Kindles are great, at night, when I'm reading in my bed and I don't want to disturb my husband. So I just want to thank you for that, because I know a lot of people don't want to publish things other than, paperbacks or hardbacks. And I understand they're beautiful. I love books. I always get the solid copy to have, just because I love the smell and the feel, but being able to access
Right.
them in different formats is great. So thank you for doing that.
Well, I'm glad to hear that. I get a lot of real good feedback like that. I mean, it came from a point where, just as you said, I I would rather listen to a book myself. And so, I thought, well, this could be something to do. And I knew someone that she actually produced all of those books and kind of beat me with a whip and kept me moving forward, and take after take after take. It's a grueling process, but once it's done, I think it's fantastic.
Oh, yes. And it's very appreciated. And the fact that it's you who narrates your own books, that's amazing. Because sometimes people just don't get it right. You can't get into their voice. You can't, they're not feeling it. And it's you. So it's perfect. So thank you.
Well, you're very welcome. That came from necessity as well. I was talking to her and I said, well, we could get someone else that is a better reader to do this. And she said, well, who better than you? You wrote it. And
Yeah.
of course, I was trying to get out of it. I thought, well, we could bring someone in that, could do it better. And she said, no, you'll do fine. We'll get through it. So
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, I'm glad that she was there.
yeah,
So, out of all of your books, which one would you recommend for like the new person to Satanism?
I guess probably Sanctum of Shadows Volume 1 would be probably the best to begin with. Volume 1 is called The Satanist, and it's really about coming to terms with who you are and what your belief is along the journey. And I think that is a real good book to kind of break the ice. So if a person is still reading when they get to the end of it, they might be a good candidate to go further.
Yeah.
If not, then I think by the same token, it shows them that this is not what I want to do.
Hmm. Yeah.
And from there, I would say probably Sanctum of Shadows, Volume 2, Corpus Satanis.
Okay.
That book broadens, it builds on the first book.
Okay.
And then it goes one step further and it introduces the reader to some of the demons that we interact with in Magnum Opus. And so I think that would probably be what I would recommend.
Okay. Perfect.
Yeah.
Perfect. And is there an order that you feel that, so going from like a newbie straight through, is there a particular order that would be best for people to read your books?
Yeah, I think Sanctum of Shadows Volume 1
Yeah.
and then Sanctum of Shadows Volume 2, Corpus Satanis. And then probably this book back here behind me, Satanism and Devil Worship, Magnae Sapientiae. That is a little broader book. And it's all of those three books are very spiritual. They're more about the spirit and developing the walk and things like that. And then probably Book of Satanic Ritual, if you wanted to get into the ritual
Yeah.
side of it.
Yeah.
And then maybe Book of Satanic Magic, probably, and then all the rest. I think the last one would probably be Sanctum of Shadows Volume 3.
Okay.
Um, I wrote that book to be kind of a departure in what I was writing about. Not a departure from Satanism, but I found that there was a real lack of people being able to have an argument, a real argument uh, with a posit and their premise, and then explaining and supporting that, not in battle, not fighting, but just a good discussion of things without doing like the cancel culture. If someone doesn't
Yeah.
agree with you, they go to social media and they start calling you names and this, that, and the other.
Yeah.
This book was to teach those that wanted to learn how to just basically present an argument and then how to build upon the premise and then how to really carry on an intelligent, although maybe heated at times, conversation of what they believe. And it actually, the idea for the book came through an email that I received from a reader. He had read Sanctum of Shadows, Volume 2, and he said, I love the book. It's really informative, but I'm having a very difficult time sharing that information with other people. He wanted to be able to share it with people that were close to him. And he said, once I began talking about this, it runs off the rails immediately. People go on the defensive. They start, basically calling him names and this, that, and the other. And so that's where the idea came from. Now, my core audience of readers hated the book. They absolutely hated it. I think one of the worst reviews that I got was, "Nothing to see here. Don't waste your money." You know. So, I mean, it happens, I guess. I did go out on a limb. I did try something different. I did it for the reasons that I've stated. But, I also understand that if you go to a restaurant, you expect what you're going to pay for. And the same thing is true with writers and books. So if you're wanting to read a quote Aleister Nacht book about Satanism, and you end up with a book that's talking about all kinds of how to build a hypothesis and how to debate, and it's like, I do understand why they went that way. And then there are people that have said, this is really good. This helped me to be able to talk about my belief with other people and be able to understand, what they were going to say and how I could frame that where it would not turn hostile, but it would be just a genuine conversation. So,
Yeah, and I think it's good that you did that, because that is the way a lot of those conversations go. When people want to share this with the others in their lives that are
right,
close to them, that's the way it rolls out usually. So having
right.
that skill set before you try is not a bad idea, because it always goes bad. Well, most of the time anyway. So
Yeah, yeah. I mean, with social media, I mean, people they really sometimes go over the edge. Um, if you say something that they don't agree with, instead of wanting to discuss it or wanting to understand it more or wanting to share what their thoughts are, they go straight for, it just goes downhill, let me say.
it does. Yes, it does. It
Yeah,
can.
yeah,
I mean, it can, because you can, there's little consequence, visible consequence anyway when you're rambling on social media sometimes, and you don't see how you're affecting the other person. So
yeah.
yeah. Um, so you also have a YouTube channel, which is amazing. I've been watching your channel for well over a year now. And
Thank you.
when people go there, they can find a wide variety of topics like chakras and scrying and, magic, and how to cultivate your practice with, Satan, and how to, keep it going in rituals and things like that. So thank you very much for that. And you also have a Patreon, where you offer different perks, based on the different tiers. Did you want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, sure. I started the Patreon. Actually, it was a recommendation from a person that I really respected, that is in social media, and I was kind of getting to the point where I was ready to retire from public life. I didn't really feel that I fit in. Um, it's to me it was a younger crowd, and nothing wrong with that, but they had a hard time relating to me, and I had a hard time relating to some of the things that they were saying.
Mhm.
And so I was really seriously thinking about just leaving public life. In fact, I announced it. And
I thought so. I was just thinking that when you were
yeah,
saying it. Yeah. Okay.
yeah, that was about 3 years ago now.
Okay.
There's
Yeah.
probably those that think, well, he should have retired. But um, I really, I talked to her and she said, why don't you maybe start a Patreon, a place where you can provide more focused things, because there are people out there that like your books. There are people out there that would like to have that connection and maybe be able to ask advice and ask for guidance. And so that's how it came about. And I actually have, out of all the patrons that I have had, I have actually 6 patrons who have been with me since the very beginning. Some come and some go, but those 6 are always there.
Right.
And so what I do is I offer different tiers. It helps me to be able to provide content. As you know, when you're providing content, especially like a series that I'm doing is Exalted. In fact, I'm working on episode 6 right now. At the live event next Sunday night, I'll be actually screening that. But
Nice.
for licensing of music, licensing of video, it's quite expensive, and so they allow me to be able to do that, and that spreads the message even more. I got into this for Satanas, and he has provided everything that I have ever needed. And when I get to the point where I need something else, I start looking at those story blocks, invoices coming in and things like that. And I go, wow, how am I going to do this? He sends someone, immediately through some mechanism that I don't understand, but he makes it happen. And the Patreons do that. They are really my lifeline to be able to do this. And I provide guidance. I have several that we do calls every couple of weeks or so. And, they just want to talk with someone and get some advice about, what they have coming up and what they're planning to do. We have satanic prayer, and it's. I think for a lot of people, it's something that is not flashy. It's not show. It's just something that they can talk with someone unfiltered. That in many cases they can't even do that with their spouse or their best friends or significant other,
Yeah.
parents, children. I mean, some folks are living a life that is really, really undercover
Yeah.
because they have a family, they have a career, they have a home, they have a mortgage, they have the 2 cars, they have the kids, and they're fighting every day and what their true belief is, because if they were to come out with that, it would ruin them
Yeah.
financially.
Yeah.
And I've heard people say, well, if they really believed it, they would do it. Put yourself in that position and see if you would do the same. I bet you
Exactly.
wouldn't. So
Exactly.
yeah, that's it. And there are different tiers, and I try to post like audio and things like that of the different episodes that I post on YouTube. Some people like to listen to that without the video,
Yeah.
because they get it through an RSS feed and they can just put it on and listen to it while they're driving or,
Exactly. Yeah.
what have you. So,
Yeah.
yeah, I love my
Wonderful.
Patreons. Absolutely. I would not know what to do. In fact, I could not do what I do without them. That's how important they are.
Well, I'm glad that you started that so you can continue to do your work because it is wonderful, and it's great that you guys call and you're there, and all of the things that you provide for your patrons is wonderful. So I'm going to leave all those links in the description below so that, if anyone is interested, they can head on over and check it out. So what are some of your plans for the upcoming year?
Well, I guess the big thing that's coming up is I try to do a live event a couple of times a year. And so I'll be doing a live event on YouTube. Let's see, February 20th, next Sunday night at 7 o'clock Eastern. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to be showing Exalted episode 5, which is called the Satanic Black Mass. And so I've split it up, and we'll watch half of it. And then I've got some check-ins and things from some friends on the left-hand path that are going to talk about what they're doing. I'm going to share what I have planned as well, and then we'll watch the other half. So a couple of hours with Aleister, and then after that, the full episode will air right after that. So that's really what I have going on here. I started writing a new book. This was back in October, I guess. But I've been so busy with everything else that I've kind of put that on the back burner. And in fact, I'm really thinking seriously about taking the Exalted series and using it to basically be my quote video books going forward. Like, for instance, the script that I have just finished is called Death and the Afterlife. And this is going to explain what my philosophy is on death, the afterlife, energy, what happens. And so I'm working on that right now. Just finished the script, and I'll start going into production probably early Monday morning after this live event. I'm a workaholic, so I go straight into the next thing. And so I'm thinking seriously of doing that instead of finishing the book. Maybe I'll finish it one day, but right now I just don't. I feel like video is something that is, for me, I love doing, and it seems to resonate with people because they get to see it, hear it, and they can come back to it over and over again. It's better than an audio book because it's shorter in time frame. These episodes are about an hour per episode. So they can come back and they can either binge watch the entire series, or they can just watch this and come back to it another time. So
nice. That's a great idea. That's awesome. And I know I'm really enjoying them. So and I know, other people are too. Like, I have people that sometimes message me, "Hey, did you get to watch the, that one yet?" And I'm like, "No, I'm just about to now." And we have conversations about it and stuff. So it's great. Thank you.
Yeah, you're very welcome.
So sometimes you use the term "getting the message out there," and I think you've said it since we've been talking today. What is the message that's important to you that you get out there?
Well, I guess it's twofold. First of all, that Satanas exists. He is real, not just figurative. The second thing is that anyone can find happiness and can find where they fit in by looking at the left-hand path. I'm not one that says, I want to sell you on Satanism or devil worship, but I will say that it has made me very happy and very fulfilled. And the people that I've been involved with have allowed me to grow spiritually. And to also have that camaraderie of a coven, and have those people that you can share this information with. I can share my thoughts unabated without any reservation whatsoever. And I think now more than ever, if there is a message, that's the message that I would like people to know. I usually get about 100 emails per week from different people. And some of them are just comments, really enjoy your books or what have you. And some are questions. And then some of them are absolutely, they draw a tear to my eye, because I know what they're going through. I went through the same type things, and I know how much they're hurting and how desperate they are to find something that resembles the truth. And they just it's very touching, but it's also, it affects me deeply, because they are sharing those things, and I can just feel it in every word that they write. And so I think if there is a message, it is that there is life after religion. There is happiness, and you just have to keep looking and be patient. And I know patience is hard for some people, myself included. And that I think that would be the message.
Thank you. Thank you. That's wonderful.
Sure.
So I have gathered some questions from social media. I wanted to get it out there sooner to get some more questions, but I did it
Sure.
when I could. And I have some questions for you today.
Okay.
The first one is, what is a good way for a beginner to work with Satan, and should they set up an altar?
Well, the first way I think to get involved is through meditation. Meditation is the best way to do that, because contact happens in the astral. Meditation is the vehicle that gets you to the point where you can enter into the astral. It has so many benefits to it. If you just look at the physical benefits, um, it rewrites your brain. It does certain things with the chemistry in your brain. It relieves stress. These are just all the physical, but then there's also the spiritual side of that as well, where you get in contact with these entities on the other side of the veil. And the more you do it, the better you become at it. And before long, you're able to really interact with those beings, and you're able to call upon them. And the the way that some people describe it, and I think this pretty much sums it up, is you're opening your mind, and you're opening your heart, and you're opening your spirit to all the possibilities of the universe. Because as children, we're taught, that, we're not supposed to develop those things. We're supposed to suppress those things. And peer pressure plays a huge role. Little kids are exploring that part of their mind, and then they get made fun of or ridiculed, and before long they suppress it.
Mhm.
But meditation is the best way to start. The second part of that question pertaining to an altar, I always answer that question, it depends on you and what you feel comfortable with. Some people are in households or in environments where they can't have a physical altar. To those people, there are always other ways to commune with Satanas. You can do it in the woods or in a park or somewhere away, or just walking down the sidewalk. You know, you don't have to be in a certain chamber or anything like that. If you want to do that, if that's something that fulfills what you desire, then absolutely. But it's not required. Satanas interacts with me and others. Um, you can be in your car driving to the store or out walking around or in bed right before going to sleep. So it's not a physical necessity. It's not a requirement. If a person feels like that makes them complete or it adds value to their life and their practice, then absolutely.
Thank you. Thank you.
Mhm.
Great answer. Someone is asking how they can go about achieving deeper trance-like states.
Again, I think that all goes back to meditation.
Yeah.
Meditation is the bedrock. Um, in our world, our three dimensions, we are limited, severely limited.
Yeah.
We can't grasp some of the things that, you know, some people say, well, I need proof. Well, some of the things, if you were to experience those things, you couldn't explain it anyway. There just aren't words for that. And so I think meditation is the basis for all of that, for your day-to-day walk, your communication with those beyond the veil, uh, whether you're summoning or you're doing invocation or evocation, you're doing spell work or ritual work or what have you. All those things begin with meditation. They begin with the cleansing breaths and you know, building the energy and then releasing the energy. That would be my best advice.
Yeah. Yeah. That's perfect. How can one be sure if Satan has accepted me or has chosen to be a part of my life?
Well, if if they are seeking Satanas, then Satanas will seek them. In other words, he really doesn't knock on people's door. If you invite him, he will come. If you want to commune with him, he certainly will do that.
Yeah.
But he doesn't impose, and he doesn't present himself in a fashion that um, a person has to be ready for that interaction before it happens. And in my experience, the first few interactions that I had were very reassuring and were very comforting. It was almost like the last piece of a puzzle was put into place. And so I think that would probably be my advice for that.
Yeah. And for me as well, the his presence was very reassuring, accepting, loving. None of the things that people are told it's going to be like. In fact, for me, it was the exact opposite. So, and that's wonderful.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah. I mean, there's a lot of bad information out there.
yes.
Um, the devil has kept established religions in business, but it's not because that's what he wanted or that's what he was seeking.
Yeah.
Um, every story has an antagonist, and they have to have a protagonist, and that's all it is with religion. They had to have a bad guy that you would cling to their religion to get away from. But I don't find Satanists to be anything like that. I never have.
No, no, no. Oh, it's easier to blame the guy that wants you to think for yourself and be true to yourself and make him the bad guy.
That's right. That's
Yeah.
exactly right. That's exactly right.
Do you have, oh, let's see, I'll try that again. Did you have signs that you were chosen by Satan before you took the steps to learn about Satanism and becoming a Satanist?
No,
No.
no. I had things that I look back in my life, and they were what I considered happenstance.
Yeah.
I believe that his hand was on me, kind of nudging me in certain situations and keeping me safe as well. I mean, through all of my time in New Orleans and with addiction, I was in some pretty dangerous situations, and I could have easily been killed. Um, and at the time, it just seemed like happenstance. Looking back, I think it may have been a little bit more of him providing some different avenues for me to go down, but still allowing me to make my own choice. That's one thing about Satanas. You choose your way and you choose your path, and he'll support you in that endeavor, but it's still your free choice. There's nothing that you have to do to have a relationship with him. No dogma. I mean, there are people who have relationships with Satanas who do not even practice rituals. They don't belong to a coven. They don't have an altar, but they still have contact with him. And I think, looking over my life, I think he was there. But I think in what I have seen in my life and in counseling different people, Satanas will take anybody that wants to have a relationship with him. So he's not going and choosing people and marking people. He's using people that step forward and say, I want to be a part. I want to have a relationship. I want to be in this, on this path, and I want it to be with him. Um, he will use that. He will use that person. He will use their talents to do, I mean, really great things. I mean, myself as an example, there's nothing that I have done that's earth shattering. I owe everything that I have done that has affected people to Satanas. It wasn't a work of me or as a person. I always start everything, whether it's a book or a video or even a podcast, by saying a prayer and asking for that guidance and asking for him to be able to touch the people that are receiving that message and have them understand how that applies to their life. And so I don't think you can go wrong with that. I think anyone that wants to be part of that, everyone has a different talent. And it takes a lot of different talents in the Satanic Kingdom. And so some things I'm good at, some things you're good at, some things someone else is good at. I have my weaknesses just like everyone else. And, while I have tried to improve upon those things, I've also accepted the fact that those are not my spiritual gifts. And so it takes everyone. So as far as being marked or called, maybe, I think a person is drawn to Satanas, but he doesn't draw you to him. He allows situations to be there where you can experience him. And then if that is what you seek, then he will open the door where you can get more and more and be totally satiated, totally fulfilled.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Thank you.
Sure.
Well, it has been such an honor and a pleasure to have you here today. Do you have any last words before we close up this session?
Well, I think a couple of things. The first is the live event on February 20th on YouTube. I invite everyone to come over. Be sure you subscribe to the channel first, because you can't subscribe and get in the chat immediately. This is to reward people that have subscribed to the channel, obviously. And the second thing is I'd like to have people on the lookout for Night Sessions, which is a new podcast that I've been doing with a couple of the satanic priests in Magnum Opus.
Yeah.
And so Cygnus and Malthorpe, they have partnered up, and we have just released the second episode of that. So go over and check it out. We talk about some really personal things on the left-hand path. So I think it'll be good.
Oh yeah, they are good. So I support that. Everybody go check it out, because it's great conversations, great information, and yeah, you all are very open about your experiences and you share, and it's just a treat to listen to. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you. We have a great time doing those episodes. We
Yes,
really do.
it's evident.
Yeah.
Okay, well, thank you so very much for being here. I hope to have you back again in the future, and I wish you a lovely evening.
You too. Thank you for having me.
Thank you, my pleasure.
Bye-bye.
Bye.